What's up, everybody? My name is Sean.
I'm Steven.
I'm Alex.
And then you want to give a little intro?
So a little intro about our guest. He's from Buffalo, New York. He went to Ithaca College of Fine Arts in New York.
I see.
And he has a Master's of Architecture in Advanced Building Technology. And he just graduated last year and he's teaching now. So welcome our guest here, Alex. Sean.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So,
hey, first of all, how you doing? How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. It's a beautiful day. We got delicious special coffee here, and looking forward to get to the Hopes Conference a little bit later, and then, celebrate Saturday.
Did you have anything to do with that preparation of Hopes?
Oh, yeah. I was working with Nancy Chang on this timber tectonic workshop. I was not involved with the studio that created this large Highland arch. What it is it's like a reciprocal frame. So you kind of have puzzle pieces like this that are cut from CNC that interact in a way that keeps rigidity and disperses weight. But this was set up in PB Hall in OSU. So this particular studio is a combination of OSU structural engineers and you have architectural designers from UO. Design stuff using wood, the timber tectonic, how does wood interact with wood? So this particular thing has no nails. So it's pretty ingenious combination. I was not part of the studio that designed that, but I was a part of the reuse project on taking this down and looking at ways we could keep using those pieces.
Yeah.
So currently it's now showing in front of 206.
Yeah. Have you seen it, Sean? Have you checked it out?
Yeah, we're all there.
Yeah. It was cool. A good time. Yeah.
It was difficult to put together. We had to use mallets.
Yeah.
And a few splinters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few splinters. You had to kind of wiggle things in, and it's kind of a headache to figure out, especially when you're looking at it on paper or a Rhino screen. But I swear, the second you get a hold of the puzzle pieces and you start playing with them, it all makes sense. And you know exactly how it comes together.
Yeah.
And to see the fabrication complete we had a table behind it. We were debating about what table to put, and it's so great. It's not like a privacy screen. It actually operates just like this kind of this folding door right here. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So what has been your transition like from did you take a break after your bachelor's degree?
Yeah. I took it was about 8 years in between.
Oh, that's good.
Graduating undergrad and then starting graduate school. And so that was kind of something where, I knew I didn't want to live in my parents' place, and I knew I needed to get a job. So I was kind of faced with the option of like, do I either go home, live with my parents and work, or I not do that and work? And so I had some friends that would move to Portland at the time and had visited before, and I loved the city at the time. Probably dating myself like back in my day, but it was affordable to live there, and you didn't need a car because the metro system was so well done. The city was eccentric, it was artistic. The culture was similar to Ithaca, so people cared about local food, like where their food came from, the handmade stuff. Being able to get close to nature, being close to nature, and a lot of people that appreciated it there. So I don't know, it's kind of like dots lining up. At that point, I finished school and was like, well, screw it, let's go. Packed everything up and moved out to Portland.
Yeah. And then how soon after Portland did you decide to go to grad school?
After Portland, that was probably, I moved pretty much after I graduated. So it was about 8 years or so. I guess you could say the West Coast in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
What influenced you to do architecture?
Architecture? Oh man, a whole bunch of reasons. I liked creating things. I like working with my hands. I like design, but I also like the logistics of things, of how spatial flow works. And I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. I was just honestly just playing with plants and looking at landscape design, and that was when I started thinking like, oh man, some plants really like dry soil, some plants really like wet soil. If you position the plant that likes wet soil lower and the plant likes dry soil higher, and then maybe you move like the rock slightly to the right, it may redirect water flow, and that may have one plant really like just that small change in the design, the environmental design, um, enabled conditions for these plants to thrive.
Yeah.
And so that got me thinking because I'm living in these, kind of bad, shitty apartments, and I'm just thinking, man, just imagine if this was designed different. Like my environment would be so much better. And then I look at other people. It's like there's so many people living in rough situations. The smallest change in the design of our environment could just make things better. And so that got me looking around as I'm walking, being like, well, why are we parking on the sidewalks like this? Like there's why? What other ways could the cars interact with the street? I thought it was interesting. It's like, I'm a big plant person, and I think there's something really psychologically healing for it. So if people who might be struggling in tough living situations have the ability to grow plants, then that's like a whole new world that they could be engaging. Not to mention growing their own food, having some kind of sense of like food security in a place that might be considered a food desert. I think that really got me excited, and started looking at design, and I came across Christopher Alexander's work, and I was watching these YouTube videos of this Greek dude, Nikos Salangaros. He teaches this algorithmic design class. It was like a free YouTube, and I was just, watching it and kind of taking notes and learning. Is like, how does the algorithmic design, meaning you look at like the Fibonacci sequence and how that's like proportions that relate to each other, and he was applying that to the city scale of you have a big city and then it's divided into certain things, but then you have subsets that relate to each other. So I was really interested, and I found out he was connected to this guy, Michael Mahaffey. He works for the Cystasis Foundation in downtown. Well, to my surprise, the guy's living down the street from me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, his office was like just right downtown. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I've been interested in this work. And like next thing I know, this guy's here. And, this guy does work with the UN he's worked with the UN, and he's had had a working relationship with Christopher Alexander. I'm like, man, I got to just reach out to this guy and just say, hey, cool, can I just pick your brain kind of thing? And he agreed to meet me, and that kind of got the wheels turning about graduate school. He's like, well, yeah, here's some schools. You could kind of gave me the rundown of like some schools were still looking at caring about this kind of sustainable, human-centric design. And then some schools were shifting away from it. And I don't know, U of O is one that came up. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you have anything to add, Sean? You want to ask him anything?
Yeah. So you had a undergrad in art. What advantages you think you had going into architecture with that major?
Yeah. I think fine art was. It's a risky thing, when I think anyone who's been drawing that's a risk you take, and you're kind of making yourself vulnerable to critique. You're constantly critiquing yourself. Like, is this right? Is this going to be perfect? I think anyone who's tried to draw a still life of something, they're constantly, you're erasing, and I'm like, oh, it's so close, but not quite. And you're kind of fighting back and forth. So it's like that studio culture and mentality of, jumping in, trying something, it doesn't work. What can you do to make it work? Or making a mistake that is irreversible, and you have to kind of incorporate that mistake. I think the mentality really helps. And then not to mention, the skills you get from drawing. You take a drawing class and you spend the same amount you do in studio, like that's 12 hours a week drawing something in front of you. You get this eye, brain, hand relationship. Kind of like the same way a tennis player, can hit a ball really well. I think that skill set was really big.
I mean, that's how our studio is. Just like get a critique, doesn't work, gotta restart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then talking about talking about stuff, that's a whole different ballgame, because how do you separate yourself from your work and then have someone tell you it looks terrible and not take it personally? You know, it's like, well, yeah, I kind of sneezed when I was drawing that line, so of course it's not going to be straight, but you get the intention. You're kind of like testing. You get to test your ideas and see if they're received in the way you wanted. And if they're not received, well, then you're like, all right, well, how can I go back to? That's where you really rely on your classmates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the most struggling part of our major, and then like, what did you wish you knew about it more?
Oh man. I think what I wish I knew more was the craft center, and the makerspace in the library, the science library. I think those two facilities were completely off my radar, especially, we had COVID for the first half of our education, but those facilities were so cool, man. You can $30, you can go in with some clay and make some pottery and do whatever you want, make some things. I ended up using some of the clay as to make like a terracotta piece that I wanted to show for one of my projects. So it's like I could directly make sample pieces that could, I don't know, be used for architecture. But man, I just wish I knew I had more time. Like the ring making class, is they have ironworking, glass blowing. That's just cool stuff that you don't have access to.
How do you know about this? How did you find out about it?
I knew about it from Sophia in your cohort. Okay. Yeah, she told me about the making pottery and stuff like that. You should come check it out.
Yeah, I'm like, sure. EMU.
Yeah, it's right at the EMU in the back end.
Oh yeah.
And man, I highly recommend it because it's fun to do. It's
$30.
It's $30. You'd probably spend more of that at Rennie's.
Right.
And you would. Right. You'd probably spend more of that at Rennie's, and you'd get some fun, like good stuff that actually could contribute to you as a designer.
Yeah, therapeutic.
I really wish I knew about that. And like struggle wise, man, I feel like my whole time I was thinking, spending all this time being a student is getting in the way of my education, because I got this to upload to this. I got to check these boxes to do this. And I'm spending all this time doing more or less like what felt like administrative kind of things, when I'm like, man, I really wish I had some time to just go to a section of the library and learn about sustainable green design. Or I may not have time to get into that sustainable green design class, or it might not even be taught because that teacher might be teaching something else that term, or it's just not that right time of year. But I want to incorporate it. I think just everyone's so busy, not having time to kind of
do you.
Do you, but also just explore. I think that's a personal thing too. I think if what do you do with your free time, right?
Right, and can you?
Yeah, and it's like that. That's what it's like. The first couple of weeks, it's like if I was looking for precedents, the library is kind of organized in this really nice way where if you're looking for one thing, one particular book, you get the little call number, takes you to a section where there's a bunch of books like that. Yeah. So if you're thinking about what kind of facade design, you know about one architect that does cool facades, and you find the book, the library has it, you go to the section, next thing you know there's 15 books, and you're like, oh shoot, I came for one, but now I'm grabbing a couple because that kind of looks interesting too.
Yeah.
I usually would end up getting just more books than, like, my eyes are bigger than my appetite kind of thing. It was just like, let's just grab it, see what's happened. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
But it's at your disposal. So
you mentioned something earlier about not attaching yourself to the criticism, to not take it so personally.
Yeah.
Were you a student, first of all, that took it personally, and then second of all, now as a professor and you being the reviewer, and seeing yourself as a student once before, do you see that they take it to that level, or that they take it personal? And when you see that, do you remove some layers and bring it back?
Oh yeah. That's a good question. I think when it came to being a student receiving, I don't know if I ever took it, like, for me, I was able to, like, it's all right drawing, but could do better, or I see where it's falling short. And that was just like, all right, good to know. This is what I need to be more successful next time. Giving critique, I think, there's kind of what was one classmate called it a critique sandwich. So you kind of begin with something you like, you move on to something that is maybe a bit more critical, actually digging into the project, saying like, yeah, I really like what you did there, but I'm kind of losing the thing there, and I'm like losing the effect or the intention here, but it's starting to work, or I see you tying it up.
Yeah.
That kind of smooths things over for people, but I think that's just like a good template. What I kind of ended up taking personally is that I would get invested in critiquing other people, and then when it came to me to pin up, everyone's just kind of silent. And I'm like, well, come on, guys, I need you. It's like, where are you? Can you say something? And then people are like, it's good, it's cool, like it's great. I really love the vibe, and I'm like, thanks. Like, I guess I'm done. Like I know I'm not, but this is as a teacher, I kind of realized the presenter has just as much responsibility for their own good critique as the person giving the critique.
Yeah.
So you could slap something on the wall and stand there silently, and maybe it goes good, but you could also kind of take charge and say, this is what I was intending, or this is something I'm struggling with. I'm really interested in your guys' thoughts on if this is working, or how I could solve this material interface. And that's kind of something how I've been trying to structure for the first year students. Or I kind of prefaced by saying like, it's okay. It's like, you're not gonna hurt people's feelings. It's okay to like be honest. That's how we grow. Like, you don't become better by sitting in a bubble that's like cushioned everywhere. You get better by being challenged. So, and it's cool because some people some students are actually like holding their classmates to higher standards, and there's nothing personal about it. It's like they want to. It's like the attitude. It's like, I want to see you do well. So why are you giving me this like, why are you giving me this half-assery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good to do, right?
Yeah, it's cool to see. And like some of it is like, I didn't really, I didn't tell them what to say or anything. I was just like, what were you intending? What did you struggle with? What are some things you learned? Just as like a basis for what to talk about.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, it must be tough. You think that there's students that probably, it's probably harsh to say, but do you feel, first of all, everybody can be an architect? Is it for everybody?
No, I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah. So when you see that as a professor and you see a student like not even trying, like, what do you say at that point? Like, to encourage or to be like, hey, save your time and money. You might want to try something else out.
I think, I think if I was in their seat way back then, I would appreciate it, because you're spending money, you're spending time, and both of those things, if someone doesn't straight up say, hey, is this really for you? Like, why are you here? You have these skills, but maybe this isn't maybe this isn't your jam. Like, maybe check something else out.
Have you come across that?
A little bit, yeah.
But it's tough to say.
Yeah. Well, I kind of framed it as like, there's nothing wrong with changing your major.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's so true.
If you find out, I mean, I changed my major like 6 times my honor.
Yeah.
I picked my school mainly because they had this program called the exploratory program. It was an undecided major, but it was for the first 2 years you could remain undecided, and you would get first pick to all the classes. So you didn't have to wait to become a senior to get in that interesting class, because freshmen get the last pick. It's kind of just it's like a lottery, kind of like a lottery number, and upperclassmen get higher lottery numbers, and lowerclassmen get the end. Well, exploratory, you're kind of part of that field, so yeah, I mean, I was physical therapy at one point. I was interested in like body movement.
Yeah.
You know, I thought physical things like physical therapy, visual communication. Like I thought video production was cool. Did a couple biology classes, and I was like, maybe the science just isn't. Like I like science, but I don't really like. I didn't really like that atmosphere as much. Yeah, so. Yeah, I told him, it's like, you're spending a crap ton of time here. Like if you're just showing up for something that you're not even caring about, like just go outside.
Right, right.
Like go play. Go enjoy the day then if you're gonna like think around in here. I never like approached it harshly, but I gave one assigned reading to everyone last term. At least in my studio. And when I told them that, they were like, more, like, really? Come on. It's like it's 2-3 pages.
That's too much.
It's written by Hunter S. It's a letter written by Hunter S. Thompson to, I can't forget his name. I think it's Ed Logan or Logan Hume or something like that. And his friend is asking Hunter S. Thompson for life advice. Like, what should I do? I think he just got back from the Navy or something, or finished school, and he's like, what do I do? And Hunter's response was like, well, it's kind of foolish to ask me for life advice. It's foolish to ask anyone for life advice because their perspective isn't yours. So, telling some advice could be great for one person, could be terrible for another.
Mm-hmm.
But he prefaces it by saying, you have to find what works for you, define your goals and shape your goals around who you want to be,
mm-hmm.
rather than shaping who you are around your goals. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's such a great letter, and I highly recommend it. I can share it. It sounds like it is, yeah. It's just more of like that kind of inner, like, self-reflective kind of thing. And I had them talk about, like, it was really simple reading response, like, why are you in architecture?
Mm-hmm.
Like, read this and tell me, why are you in architecture? Why did you pick this? How does this relate to design? Because the idea of having a goal, especially when you're an architecture project, you're in love with this idea, so you're bending everything in the plan to fit this idea, and then then you're just creating dead spots. And yeah, it's a really weird, so it relates in terms of like striving to be yourself and bending the goals,
mm-hmm.
or having the goal and bending yourself.
Just to make that work.
Yeah, right? It's like, I want to be a CEO, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a CEO, but I might not be me at the end of it, but I'll at least have a CEO. But,
yeah.
So I had to read that, and, some people were like, oh, I was interested, I come from a family of architects and engineers, so it seemed like a good fit. So I'm like, all right, I get that. I'm not convinced, but I get it.
Right.
But that's fine. Some people were like, I wanted to take a risk and try something new. I thought, one student was interested in music, and I was like, well, I thought architecture would be better. Or a very common thing I hear is, I'm really creative, but I want a job that pays me something.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, well, wrong major.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, the landscape is changing, and there's so many different ways you can be creative. And like I gambled, with fine arts, and that I wasn't selling paintings for a living, but I was doing things with painting and doing things with art making that made me money. But it's like someone told me, like, to be a big famous painter is like becoming a rock star. It's like it's a mix of personality, it's a mix of skill, it's a mix of timing, it's a mix of self-representation and all of that. And there's a very like capitalist kind of approach to that.
Have you sold any of your paintings?
Yeah, I sold some. Yeah. Done some commissions. I've done some sales. Commissions are kind of a pain because,
what do you mean by that? What is that?
You're kind of doing what other people want you to do.
Oh.
It's not really, you're not painting for you, you're painting for them.
Oh,
You
that
know,
must be tough.
well, okay, like I have this great example of this. One of my cousins, his mom had saw my website and reached out to me. It was like, I want to get my son this. I want to get him a painting for his birthday or something, but he loves Mass Effect, this video game. Did you ever play Mass Effect? So it's a great kind of like adventure role playing. I guess you'd say RTS or something, but more or less, her son was really into it. I'm like, well, I know the game. I've seen it. I've played it. And she's just like, he loves London, and he loves this space game, and we really want you to do it in this kind of style, like how you've done this painting, which was like a lot of streaking lights. Like it was kind of, you take a blurred photo of light, like a car moving, and the lights are kind of streaked. So she's like, I want that kind of effect, and I've been telling her, I've been using a lot of like like black light reflective paint in my paintings. So you have one painting, and then you turn a black light on. It's a different painting.
Dang.
Yeah, it was a really fun process. Do that? Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it's just a pigment,
Yeah.
But God, I would get something, and then she's like, "Oh, not quite. I don't really want that." And it's like a little bit less like this, more like that.
And you would have to restart.
And I would have to re-edit and go back, and it, by the end of it, it was like, this just feels like, it felt like work. It wasn't what I liked. What I liked to do, painting kind of for me has always just been more like an internal thing rather than like a let me do something for you kind of thing.
That makes so much sense, right? Because like when you're in the street and you buy a painting, you can't. Hey, can you also add this? And like, the painting, just buy it. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that was a learning experience for me of being like, commissions is not my game.
Right.
I would rather people come to me for my paintings and just, like you say, take it. Like, you accept it for what it is, or you don't, and you move on. But having to bend myself and who I was as a painter to someone else's goals was, that was the issue there, man. It was.
Yeah, I can see how that's tough.
Yeah. So
because it's not fun at all after that, right?
Yeah. Oh man, there's one I couldn't even finish. I gave them their money back. I was
way.
Like, I'm sorry. It was this big paint. It was massive, like bigger than that TV. It was at least like a 4 by 5 foot painting. And he was a Marine that fought in Afghanistan. He was one of my buddies. One of my buddies' older brother. This guy was like one of the first boots on the ground.
In the first
he's like a good old Texas boy. Has a big heart, like great dude. He saw the Twin Towers falling on TV, and we're being told that it was weapons of mass destruction from the Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, and he's like, "All right, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to like fight for our country," because that was the conversation at the time, and sees a lot of friends die, kills a lot of things, like stories that he wouldn't even want to tell me, and that was hard. But he was like, I really want this painting to kind of commemorate that experience, and he's like, I want it big, and I want this big skull with these two M240 Bravos crossing with and I want he wanted all these things, and he wanted to like represent some people that have been lost and all this, and I was like, all right, man, like let's go. We can do this, but like how much time do you need? And eventually, like, we would lose contact here or there, and I would keep working on it, but it still came back. Every time I came back to it, I'm like, damn, dude, this is like, I'm not enjoying it, but I still felt that push to do it for him, because he's a friend, and I wanted to represent something, and this guy eventually, I meet him in Portland, and he's like, this guy's mixed. He's like pissed off. He's like, I fought in a war that seems like bullshit now. I'm not being taken care of. I've got friends that are committing suicide left and right, and I'm just like, damn, dude. Like, let me help you out. And that was like my way of trying to help him out. But I realized it's like, I can't do this, man. Like, this is too big of an undertaking for me to give to you. And I don't know if you like really want this hanging in your house. Like, I don't know if you really want a big skull,
Right.
like with guns crossed. Like, I don't know if you want that hanging in your like such a big painting. So I kind of finished as much as I could, and I kind of just gave him the canvas and said, like, I can't do this for you, man. Like, I can't complete it. Like,
How was that?
That was tough because he was a friend, but he understood, and I think eventually he was like, I don't know if I really want this painting. It kind of worked out, in the whole scheme. He's like, I didn't.
He's
really
like, you're
want
right.
it, yeah.
I was just in the moment.
Yeah, it was just in the moment. So it was like, well, it was fun to do, and it was that kind of experience of working with someone where you have a client and they're asking you for stuff, and you got to check in and make sure it works, and so on. So
Yeah,
it was a good experience, and I hope he's doing well. I'm not sure what he's up to nowadays, but yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah. Do you still do portraits of people?
Yeah. I still do. Not like for people. I think the last big portrait I did was of my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for my grandpa. She passed, and I mean they were married pretty much right after school for a long time, man. They've been side to side, and he's pushing 100 nowadays. This man, I don't know how you survive in Alabama eating bacon and pork and biscuits and drinking coffee, but he's getting to 100 doing it, and yeah, and so when she passed away, he had this one picture of her from the newspaper, which is how he I guess that was his the beginning of his affection for her. So that was just my way of processing the funeral, like her passing, but also like to leave with him kind of thing. But I haven't really done too many portraits since, just because sometimes I need people to sit still for a while.
How was that though? What was that? How was that exchange? Like, was it super emotional for him once you gave it?
Yeah, he still got it in his place.
Damn.
He never really showed much emotion. Like, he was happy for her, and he knew she was still there, and I think he definitely missed her, but I don't think I really saw him cry, and he was like really held it together, and whether that was just his way of going through it, but she was in a lot of pain towards the end. So if anything, he was like, good for her.
Yeah.
Like, cheers, lady. I'll see you later. See you in a little bit.
Dang, that's tough. Sean, you want anything to add?
Yeah.
No, there's.
What question do you have?
Questions? Yeah. How'd you balance the coursework in our major? It's pretty rough.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It was kind of like, triage was the key word there, which is, like medical emergency term. Like what do you kind of cut loose when you only have so many resources or so much time? So kind of like think of like my balancing was kind of like the Titanic. It was sinking, so it's like women and children on the boat first, and whoever else can squeeze. Like, good for you. I kind of just worked, 8 to 8, sometimes to 10, and had to call it. I never brought my work home. Sometimes I did when it was like really necessary, but I think kind of figuring out immediately, like, what do you have to do? Like, what are the tasks you have to get accomplished, so that way it can unlock the next step? Because you might want to do like, all right, let me do a plan. But it's like, all right, well, I got to make sure I got paper big enough, and I got to figure out my site size. And for that, I may want to print something out off of Revit, or print something like a satellite image off of the site to get an idea. So there's like little steps to accomplish the big thing. Yeah.
So what do you think? Is it okay to tell the students, like, when you don't see any interest, at this point, because this will be a year, right, of their first year, and at the end of the spring, it'll be their first year, and if you're not seeing them where they're supposed to be for first year, do you think it's okay to tell them, like, hey, it's gonna get a lot tougher, you need to get better, or this is not, you're not gonna be in any better situation? Is that okay to say to them?
I think so. I honestly have already said that to someone last term, and I was and that was not even a bad. That wasn't even like I think a kind of a scolding conversation. It was more like, hey, I just noticed like some things didn't get submitted on time, and like when it came to, you'd say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that reading, and I'll get that paper to you. Like, I'll get that to you soon, and I'm like, all right, it's
Yeah.
like sure, I hear you, but at the same time, I don't really believe you, and I can see and I could tell by their personality and how they talk about design. It's like, all right, you got a lot of wheels spinning up there, and you're kind of easily distracted to do this or that.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're a freshman in college, so I'm a little like relaxed because I'm like, hey, you're showing up at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Like that's like a big achievement, I think, just for like coming out of high school and you
Right.
can just kind of let loose to do your own thing. So for that person, I was like, this is gonna hurt you, like, and this is gonna get harder, but. And I told them the kind of same things like figure out your tasks or find something that works for you. Maybe you need to just write things on your wrist, just like get a Sharpie. And if someone you hear in class that you need something done, it's like that's your method.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in your phone. Maybe like for me, it's like the phone didn't work so well. The agenda book didn't work well because I had to remember to pull it out and look at it.
Yeah.
Just to know what I was doing, So for me, it was more something on my desk. If I hear something, I scribble it on a piece of paper and tack it on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of that was a good feeling because when I was done, I could take that piece of paper, crumple it up, and
there goes that
recycle it,
task.
and I'm done. Yeah, and it's like that was a good accomplishment for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think for them it was like just kind of warning them. Yeah. Like,
yeah,
you might struggle, and you're gonna have to find something that works for you. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're already like hissing and complaining at this point, you're like, this is nothing compared. Wait till you guys get to structure.
Yeah. I mean,
I've told them already. I'm GEing this term, and Sean is TAing this term, and the students are already in that stage, right? And architecture is mainly architectural representation, graphic,
Yeah.
And so we have a solid team, right? Like Mary and the other team, they're really good, talented graphic teachers.
Yeah.
And they're finding it challenging, but I mean, you have to put in the time no matter what for that, right? It's not like what we were in parametric design. That's tough, right? Because you're learning everything, a new language.
That's a lot. Yeah, it is like a whole language.
Yeah, but I told them like, hey, it's gonna get tough, you guys. Like, she's just asking you to turn in 3 pages, and then they submit 18 slides, like the whole template.
Yeah.
Instead of just hitting print. Range page 1 through 3, like that's too much for them to do.
Right. Yeah.
And so
I know. I think you could hold people to highest standards, and that's tricky. That's tricky because how much slack do you give to someone? But at the same time, how if you're always giving someone slack, are they just gonna go through life thinking, I got slack, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to that stuff you might struggle with. I mean, think about, you're in grade school and you're struggling with math. Like, what do you do if you're struggling with math? You get a tutor, or you like get a friend, or like you have to do outside help to make sure you can pass that, or you fail the grade and you stay in you're in 3rd grade next year again. So like that's how it went in grade school. Maybe things have changed, but you either, I hate to say it, but you either barely got through, you passed because you learned it. Yeah. And it's like, maybe that's just not your strength, but like, I think recognizing that too. It's like, I'm terrible with working on graphics in the computer. Who can I talk to that can help me figure that out? Or like, what can I do to figure it out? Because,
we're our best resources most of the time.
Or just give up. Like, is that the other option? You just want to do grade 3 again, or
right,
or cheat? And I hate to say it, but that's the other way you pass the grade. And it's not the greatest one. It's not the greatest
because you'll pay for it later.
Yeah, you're paying for it later because you won't know it, or you'll think you can just get away with that, and that catches up to you big time.
Yeah, remember when we were working together for the parametric class? Late night.
Yeah.
And then there was a student, Sean, that we couldn't say his name. So his name, like, he was Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
And his name was super difficult. And
It's a tough pronunciation.
so then when we were, it was, I think we finished at midnight, man, trying to work on that thing. And he figured it out, and he was so stressed out. And Alex is like, "Yeah," we're all like chanting, like, "Yeah, you did it!" Again, then Alex forgot his name. Nice job, one. We were all like,
like there was one point.
Why couldn't you have been like, nice job, man?
Well, I was just like, I was learning his name, and well, I'd known him for a while, and we had been buddies we did a grasshopper class together too, and so I was like, that way that pronunciation of like a Chinese word in my like English speaking mouth, it was just a bit too hard to wrap my tongue around. Oh man, and he just, because I kept trying, and that's why I was saying it, because I was like using this practice.
You know,
like,
he looked at you guys like, nah, I ain't giving you.
Buddy, I'm gonna get this, and he's like, just stop. Just get it off.
Okay.
I was like, I can't, bro.
Hey, Alex, I took him fishing. We went fishing to the deep sea. Yeah.
Wait, is he tall?
Yeah.
Not really, huh? He's not as tall as Alex.
Oh, okay.
He's probably about your height.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
never mind.
I took him fishing, and he got seasick.
Yeah,
So then,
yeah.
as I'm catching fish, he's next to me throwing up, and then the captain catches his fish because he left his fishing pole.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Whose pole is this? Whose pole is this?" And then I'm like, I can't tell him his name. He's gonna struggle to say his name. So then he's throwing up, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's your English name?" He's not gonna be able to say Juan. And then he's like, Julian. And then he went over there to get it. With the struggle of pronouncing his name continued in the deep sea.
So of course it's when an emergency.
Yeah, Julian. I almost felt upset. Like, you should have told us that a long time ago. Julian is easier. You don't know him,
the
son?
disrespect.
Big Z.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need to see the face.
Oh, okay. He's working in LA now at a firm.
Yeah.
He graduated. He's doing well.
Yeah, he was a hard worker, and he did some good work too.
Yeah, he was solid.
Yeah, and he would. So that would be someone, if I ever was struggling with trying to grasshopper or troubleshoot Rhino, like, I'm right at his doorstep, being like, "Hey man, like, I'll trade you some hand drawings for some tips on this or something, like
Some scripts.
like what can work? What do you think?" And just kind of having that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good skill to practice, because that's probably the real world too.
Yeah, the scripts.
Like, you can't just pretend to be a structural engineer. You got to go to a structural engineer and be like, "How do you do this?"
Right.
Or a plumber or something like that,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how are you enjoying teaching? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I learn a lot. Like, I think as a designer, kind of relearning, like, not just like learning vocabulary, but like seeing it in action and having to show it, like having to explain design concepts and then identify it in someone's work that is getting there, but then also like want to push them. That's been a really great skill to practice. And I enjoy the university atmosphere where there's these great facilities like the wood shop. Getting to work with Nancy on this timber tech thing, it's like, it kind of still feels like I'm still in school. Like, I get to piece together things, but it's a different,
Yeah.
I have to, like, you take a different responsibility for it, but I'm enjoying it. I do think having some more professional experience, like, I don't know, I just feel like I hit a ceiling at one point. I could never teach vertical studios.
Mhm.
If I just taught, if I just continued doing this, I wouldn't be able to teach, maybe vertical, but not terminal. I'm not ready to teach terminal, but I would be, I could see that in the future. Like, this is like a good experience to kind of get you an idea of, like, all right, this is how you work with a university administration, because that's a whole bureaucracy that you have to, that's kind of like you have a boss. You got to show up, you got to go to meetings, you have to kind of participate in how faculty or like organizes itself within the larger mainframe of this university, which I'm still kind of learning that. And you know,
It's tough.
partially it's like I'm not making that much. I don't have that much involvement with it, so I just kind of am learning from afar, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I as a student I never saw you break under pressure. I never saw you upset.
Oh yeah.
Like did you ever get upset?
Like
I never seen
yeah,
you
like
break, man.
stress. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could always be worse, right?
Yeah.
And I think
What was the formula? What do you think helped you not to get to that? Because
like
you've
to the
seen students,
breaking,
right?
yeah.
They're like, and they get upset.
Well, I mean, I have definitely been stressed at like, you know, it's 6, 7 in the morning, and I'm on a cup of coffee like 10, and I'm like, I need to finish this, and I'm like, get up,
Oh.
pace around, and
You're on go mode.
yeah. I think kind of just burying my head and just working. I don't know if that was the greatest, but um, I don't know. I think it
Yeah.
was just.
It could be
It could
worse.
always be worse, and it's like it's not their fault that I'm having a rough time. You know, I get frustrated at teachers, but or I would get frustrated at assignments and want to take that out on like, oh well, it's that teacher's fault because I'm really stressed right now because you know because I relaxed on Friday night and now I
Yeah.
can't, now I'm busy working on Saturday night, Sunday night, and
Yeah.
freaking out for the final on Monday. You know.
Yeah.
That's me on midterm.
Yeah, I think you know maybe it's just how I handle stress, but there's plenty of times where I was just internally screaming because
Yeah.
I'm just like I need to get this printed. This looks so bad, you know. Gotta get this on the wall, and
Is the pressure and stress the same as a professor now?
oh no, not at all.
No?
Yeah,
Like,
it's amazing. I
No,
can't-
because
yeah, it's
one of the other professors that I taught with you was stressed out at the end. He's like, I was stressing out because I didn't think the students would catch up to the level we
oh
needed
yeah,
them.
yeah,
So I don't understand that because I'm not at that level. You are.
yeah.
So did you feel that at all? You're like, hey, that's on them. I gave them the formula. They don't follow it. It's on them.
Yeah, kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
a little
right?
bit. I mean, I do think, and maybe that's just that maybe that professor has a greater understanding of like where they should be.
Yeah.
I still, I guess you could say I'm still kind of like learning
Mhm.
about what kind of expectations to hold people to.
Hmm.
You know, and we were talking about this the other day. Like, how do you decide someone's gonna fail? You know. And I think the hardest thing for me is what's the difference between a marginal pass
I
and
need
a
to
fail?
know.
You know?
I need to
Yeah,
know
what's
that.
the
Yeah,
difference?
what's
I
the
need to know
difference?
that
Well, what is
because
marginal pass? It's
I've
like
been
you
in
barely
way
show
too
up to
many-
class, or you make something you submit stuff on time, but
I've got
it's
that
okay.
twice, but I always pass in the end.
Yeah.
I don't understand why.
I struggle with defining it myself because I think when I look at them as their first time studio, I'm like, well, there's a lot to learn. You're wrapping
Right.
your head around stuff.
Right.
Maybe what I'm holding you to is your willingness to catch up and learn what you need to learn rather than having that being like, oh, well, I'm new here, so I can give you that kind of like that slack. But
Are
I don't know.
those?
It's tough. I've been struggling with it a lot because I do think I think as a whole the design quality at the school wants to be elevated.
Mhm.
Like I know for sure the faculty as a whole want to see the design quality elevated.
Yeah.
And they want to they phrase it as design rigor, like a discipline. You know, it's not sloppy. There's a sense of care that goes back to it and says, you know, I'm not there. There's a sense of like students aren't satisfied with like I don't know meager work. So how do you
Is that
instill
fair?
that, you know, and how do you, and then the other same time is like, well, the reality is if I fail someone, they have to repeat it and they have to wait a year to repeat
Yeah.
it because it's not like
You can
there's
take
a
it next
summer
term.
school you can catch up on and
That's
stay
why
on
you gotta
track.
clutch it in the end.
Yeah.
Like a king.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's a tough thing though. No, I
man,
mean,
that's tough.
No,
Yeah.
there's too much pressure on that.
You
Honestly.
gotta wait a whole year.
yeah, and so it's like, well, just me holding you to this rigor could cost you an insane amount of money when I think about the economics of it. And, you know, the school as a whole wants to increase tuition, like not increase tuition, increase attendance, like student population. And that means classes get bigger. That means I see students less.
So
That means-
quantity over quality. It's
Possibly,
gonna
yeah.
become
I think that's just kind of the natural flow of. It doesn't mean it's coming. It just means
I
that
think that is.
it happens.
Right now.
Yeah, it happens when you don't have time to touch base with everyone,
Yeah.
or
check in.
your net is so wide that you're catching more than you can eat. You know, I don't know. I think that's a tough thing. And, I don't know. It's
Are those
a tricky thing. Yeah.
Are those marginal pass and fails kind of like the theory or thought that we have about police that at the end of the month they have to give tickets because they have to meet their.
Yeah.
Are those required? Like there has to
like
be
a required amount of filling. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I never I've never that doesn't exist that I
No.
know. But that is interesting.
Yeah, because
I
if
think
you
it's
don't know what a
true.
marginal
Yeah.
pass is, I don't think we know what is that?
Yeah.
Is that just like
Well,
behave, son?
that's how, yeah, right. It's like, and that was something where I was like, maybe that's the kind of kick in the boot that, or like, kick in the butt that someone needs to get in gear and
Yeah.
be like, oh wow, like I really need to get my shit together so I could.
Get it together.
And sometimes that really actually is good for people.
It does work.
Yeah. So perhaps maybe that should be a thing as like a marginal pass. Other schools they do like that are more competitive and less collaborative are say we're only giving this amount of A's to people. Like only 10 people in the studio get an A. Now that's a different dynamic. Now you have the whole class. If you want an A, you got to do some good work.
Yeah.
And but it changes how you look at your peers.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, they're my competition. And then you get into those horror stories of sabotage, and you're locking up your models. You're not showing any of your work or your ideas because you don't want that snagged from someone else. And,
Damn, that's
improved.
tough.
And I know. So it's like, but maybe that kind of framework produces higher quality, even though it's not collaborative.
No,
I don't know. It's a good
too
question.
Draining.
Yeah, it's draining.
I had a studio that was like that.
Yeah.
We had like the best of the best, and everyone was somehow in that studio. So
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh, it's go time!" Like
Yeah.
first assignment, it was just a simple like site stuff, but like people brought hella stuff to it, like, and they looked so good at it. I'm like, oh my god, this is. I could tell this is about to be a competition studio now. So I was like, damn, I need to step it up because like. I'm gonna look like a weak dog. So I started like doing stuff, but then it's like, oh my god! And then that's when I got the what is it? That's when I got the marginal pass because I was like, not my skills weren't there, but I managed to get there where everyone. I started to like, my work started to get a little shittier because I was like, dude, I can't catch up with these people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, he thought I was this good the whole time, but I actually wasn't. I was just trying really hard at the beginning.
You set the bar really high.
Yeah. That's why I set the bar really low when I go into studios now, and then pop off in the end as a surprise.
Yeah.
That's what I did in our term.
What do you think? Is that good then, Alex? Would that be a good move to do the 10
marginal
A's,
pass?
the 10 A's to kind of step it up subtly?
It's kind of like do you motivate people by holding up a carrot or by slapping the ass?
Yeah.
I guess I think of it like a carrot in front of a donkey, or like do you motivate something to move by like positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement? I feel like positive reinforcement works better.
It's like a hit or miss. Some people do well, like under pressure or over pressure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to, it kind of makes me think of like Machiavelli, where he, I guess history lesson time or something, but Machiavelli was hired by the king of Italy or something. Yeah, I believe it was in Italy, to kind of examine whether it's better to keep power by people fearing you or by people loving you. And that's the whole story that the whole Machiavellian story that came out of, or like
that's what he's known for.
Concept. That's what he kind of came out of, where he's like, is it better for your your people, your subjects, because you're a king, is it better for them to fear you because will you keep power that way, or better them to love you? And he ultimately would say it's better for them to fear you, because even if there's less likely of an uprising of someone to do that, because even if they love you and there's an uprising, they may not love you enough to have your back, because they might still end up pick the other person because of the threat, because of the fear of someone else. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting conversation, because it's like, is it better to motivate a student with fear or with something positive? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
What do you think? What would work?
I don't know, because some people, like I said, it's like it really depends on the atmosphere. Like some people work better under pressure, and some people like the pressure because it keeps them like. I've seen some studios where like it's really loose, but all the like people who need a structure for the class, like they feel lost because like no one's telling them what to do. They don't know. But all the like free thinkers are like, oh yeah, this is like I can start like doing my own schedule.
That's a good point too. Yeah, the structure. Yeah, I think I don't know. That's a really good point to make. What how would you feel about a teacher putting that pressure on you? Like,
that happens to me too much.
What pressure?
You being told that that X amount of people could possibly fail.
Yeah,
regardless, like I have to give a fail out.
Oh,
that's straight up Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's Hunger Games.
That's how the theory came up, because there's a studio. I think 3 were picked in each studio that had to be like, and some of them that got it was like, what? Why did you? I don't know why you were chosen. You were probably the weakest link in that studio, but you're probably fine in general. So I was like,
yeah. It's
like I got it. I got one. I got like a marginal pass, and like they just let me know like, hey, this is where you're standing. But then they're like, oh, you're gonna pass in the end though, so don't worry about it. So I'm like,
interesting.
So am I just getting it because I'm the weakest link of all these other top dogs?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a.
I don't think it's.
I don't know if I would like that. Yeah,
I know. It's like telling you, like, hey, I'm gonna give you this, but you're gonna pass in the end anyway. So it's like, like, well, yeah, I didn't need that in my mind now.
Well, remember what that professor that we had, Alex, together when he came in day one? I just want to tell you guys, all of you guys passed. You guys already passed. So you don't even have to show up. You passed. Just show up for the midterm and the final. And so that kind of like that relieves a whole bunch of pressure.
That's a good point.
And remember how united that studio was, because he came in to build community. Yeah. And he mastered that because everybody was feeding off of each other because that pressure was removed.
That's true. That's very true.
Because then if you do the 10 A's, then you create a malicious cycle, right? And just fake love. Yeah. And just, hey, get Alex.
Or people give you advice thinking like, and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to make me better. And in fact, they know that it's going to screw you up.
Yeah. Yeah, people were jacked up like that. They'll set you up, man. Yeah. So I appreciate the other way that you guys passed. Right. You don't even have to come. You passed. We're like, what? And people still, I wouldn't show up sometimes, but I mean, I delivered. Everybody did. Everybody had such a different plan, but it was all to like improve community. And I think that helped, especially in the springtime when it's nice and sunny, because we face a lot of gloomy weather. Oh, yeah. And then it's nice and sunny, optimistic, and all love. Yeah. All the students were cool. As opposed to doing that, then that's kind of dangerous. There's only 10 A's that are going to be giving out. Which one are you?
No way. Yeah, I don't think, I agree. I think that competitive, it hurts. Like, you might get stronger, but like, what's the... there's no community. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. What happened in my undergrad that was so disrespectful. That was the first studio that they mixed architect students with landscape architect students. And so the professor was an architect. My professor was an architect. And she did, it was a mural board thing. And she said, All right, she did that. She loved doing that Hunger Games crap.
Mm.
So she created like 10 boxes, 10 squares, and she said, groups of 5, go. All you guys choose whoever you want.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so everybody, like nobody knows each other,
Mhm.
but you had to put your skills,
Oh,
right? So
yeah,
you
yeah,
can see
yeah.
Alex is good at this. And then you would see the ones that got left out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was that architect student that I was like, because I was reading their qualities, that I was placed in a good group, and then they were all strong. And so my professor's like, no, not this group. You guys have to balance it out. Steven, I'm gonna move you over here.
Right,
So they
yeah.
moved me, and then that one architect student still floating around, she's like, hey, you need to hurry up and pick a team already. And he's like, hold on, I need to see what my best option is. And you're just like, what about, if the student's not that strong, but he's going to help out,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
completely like writing him off. And that, you don't think that hurts him or her?
Yeah, right?
So he got picked into my group. And in my group, they threw they threw 2 students that were weak.
Mm.
And I was like in charge of them, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because they needed to be held by the hand. And it just got tough because this architect student was so disrespectful, man. Like, he didn't respect them at all. He
Yeah.
only wanted to have meetings with me, and I'm like, no, them too. No, I don't want to talk to them.
All right.
And
Shoot.
so that creating that environment
That's a great point. Yeah.
didn't help, man.
Yeah. I think it's safe consensus on that.
Yeah.
No way.
So that's not the way to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there has to be a better way to. You do have to bump up the standards. I believe that.
Right. How is a great question.
Yeah, how that's where we need to work on.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking like the students.
Marginal pass.
Right. No.
Yeah. I mean, it's still passing, right?
Yeah.
You all pass, but maybe.
Maybe.
Fucking hate that.
Yeah. What else you have?
Oh, this is a good one since you're a professor also. What's the most valuable piece of advice you received from a professor or a mentor?
Have you had one?
Oh, I think so far the most. Oh, that's tough.
It doesn't have to be here.
Oh, I see.
It can be
I
just in
see.
general.
From
Yeah,
a
just in
professor or
general.
mentor. Oh, okay. Man, gotta
Or a
really
friend, I don't know,
dig.
anything.
Most valuable piece of advice. Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah, you got that many?
Do you have
or that little?
That's good though, if you do.
Well, I guess one that comes to mind was my figurative anatomy drawing teacher. We were always doing these gestural drawing classes, and we would do these warm ups. So you'd start off doing like 2 minutes, doing as quick. You had 2 minutes to do as quick as you could. 5 minutes, then we do 15, and then we do like an hour and a half. So your drawing would quickly do quick. It's kind of like loosening up, like warming up for workout or something. And I remember he came over and he's like saying, he's like your 5 minute drawings and your hour and a half drawings are great, but all the time in between was not so strong. And that for me just was so interesting because it was like, all right, so he was kind of pointing out my strengths and like a weakness, but it was the degree of focus that happens within this like the medium time zones was interesting. So I don't know, I thought that was some interesting like advice in terms of how to spend your time and like where to focus. It's like, all right, you might be strong at a quick snapshot and you might be strong being able to dig in, but it would be like there's the part of drawing and I kind of like thought of that as to life is like where maybe you don't have all the time in the world to do an hour and a half drawing, or you need to spend a little more focus than 5 minutes. So how do you make the most out of something that's quick but also has some detail and in-depthness to it? I don't know. That was pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta really think about that.
Are there any?
Are there any?
Yeah.
Are there any? Go ahead, Sean.
No, because like I realize I'm really strong in the beginning and I'm really strong in the end.
Yeah.
in the middle, I do fall off. Like I
Mhm.
know that too. Like even when it comes to design, like in studios, like I'm hella like I have a strong emotion going through the beginning.
Yeah.
Then when I get to the middle, I'm like, oh, I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
And then I clutch it up in the end game. But like middle, I'm always like, oh, I don't know why I'm dropping right now.
Yeah, it's like a goal like I don't know. For me, I kind of read that as like goal orientation of like where should I be halfway through, or where should I be 3/4 of the way. But when I had so much time, I was like, well, I can just move as slow and steady as I need to make sure everything looks decent. And when I don't have any time, I'm just like, let's just go.
Yeah.
I don't have time to think. I don't know. I thought that was pretty good advice.
Is there any like, can an undergrad student find time to go to therapy? You think, being an architecture student?
Yeah, I hope so.
Were you able to find time? Did you go to therapy?
Yeah.
during grad school?
Yeah,
or
I think.
you did?
I mean, I think it's a good way of managing stress. Um, it's a good way of kind of re-examining your relationships with other people. Um, and so I found it. It was helpful for me, and it's like once a week for an hour. And that's what can you do for once a week for
Right,
an hour? Like,
right.
I'm sure if it's important to you and you actually start to get like find value in it, you can find an hour to make that happen. And sometimes it's maybe on your lunch break.
Because mental
You're just
wellness
eating
is a
your
real
lunch.
thing, bro.
Huh?
Mental wellness.
Yeah,
It's a real
and
thing. That's
it is.
crazy.
It really is, and it's a lot of it's things that you don't even realize it's happening.
Right.
I think you grew up to protect yourself in certain ways, certain situations, and you might not even realize that you're kind of acting defensively in a like anxious or kind of disengagement kind of way.
Yeah.
But I thought it's great because you go to them and they just kind of say like, oh, how's your week going?
Yeah.
What's going on? And there's someone who really they're not gonna talk shit to your friends. They're not gonna tell you, oh yeah, this person was saying this. They're not your parent that might judge you, or like a friend that might judge you. They're really just there to listen to you, and they could I do think they have some legal obligation to say this person is kind of dangerous, but they're not going to be, they generally don't care what you do with your life, although they want to see you progress and be happy with whatever you're choosing.
Yeah.
And so I think for me it was, they show up and they're like, "What? How was your week?" And I was like, "It was pretty good. And I had a tough time, been like kind of frustrated with talking about this, and like it seems like every time I start to talk about it, it is received this way." And then it depends on how good your therapist is, because I think there's also people that aren't the greatest at their jobs that they're learning, or maybe their methods aren't good. I personally am a big fan of behavioral psychology rather than, and this is just my personal opinion, that if like I'm feeling anxiety or something, or I'm feeling depressed or the range of psychological conditions that you could have, I don't want to like quickly lean to like a pill to suppress or help deal with that. Now, some people may have need that chemical kind of balancing. For me, it's kind of like, what is my behavior, like how am I behaving, like creating those conditions too.
Mm.
I don't know. That's just my personal interest, because
But I think it's
that's
helped you.
a big thing, and it helps you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
Like one simple aspect is just like noticing how your physical body is feeling, in like learning that awareness. For example, if you're in a situation where you're getting butterflies in your stomach, or it's tense, or you feel like choked up, like those are physical responses to a psychological phenomenon, Like there's no reason for your stomach to squeeze up other than you're feeling kind of nervous, or you're feeling kind of anxious, and you're feeling kind of threatened. And then you can say like, all right, well, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? Or like, what kind of situation? Or I don't know. You kind of learn tricks to I don't know.
To balance it
My
out.
dad had a really good way of putting it. It's like sometimes you're driving, and you're driving on a trail, and your car gets stuck in the mud, and the more you spin your tires, you're still not going to go anywhere. You could spin your tires extra hard, and you're still stuck in the mud. But sometimes like therapy or even medication, for some people can just give you a little traction to get out of the mud.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and I thought that was like really. I think that's like a good thing to approach mental health rather than being like
just stubborn.
Yeah, rather than being like, oh, that's for sick people or that's for crazy people
Yeah.
or that's for weak people. It's more of like, no, that's for someone who's just kind of stuck in the mud and just needs a
Right.
little traction to get back on their trail, or they're just kind of learning, want to learn more about themselves. Like that's a professional that knows how to write, knows how the mind works, and knows how the mind has been developed from an early age. Because you have your parents, or you don't have your parents,
Yeah.
and you still develop. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what always made you like different from the other students that I noticed about you, because you had that experience of therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've done a bunch of different forms. Like group therapy is pretty interesting. That was a pretty good experience too. Like I got into this stuff called like psychosomatic, that was talking about how the body physically reacts to mental things, and I just found that so interesting because you think about animals, for example, like when a turtle's scared, he tucks his head, or when armadillo is scared, they curl up into a ball. And it's like we're also primal, like we're primal beings in a way. So
Yeah.
when you get scared, your body is instinctually going to react like, well, this is where all my guts is, and I gotta hide it.
Yeah.
So you might just be doing like this to like hide yourself, or
and you don't catch it.
And you don't catch it, or like I heard of an interesting study talking about lobsters. Lobsters that just stood upright and held their posture were perceived as stronger than lobsters who didn't. And that was the kind of the study. So it's like you might not even be a confident or strong feeling person, but just giving yourself that little bit of posture, like standing upright, it's like kind of showing your, like, people will kind of give you a little more respect just because you're looking
I
like
agree
it.
with you.
It's like a weird cycle. Yeah.
You're always like, why don't you look nervous? I'm like, oh, I'm hella nervous. You just don't see it on the outside.
Interesting, yeah.
Because he always has the same face. He's always like he's never angry.
I'm always like,
yeah.
Just chill about it. But in reality, I'm like
Right?
freaking out. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, dude, I just can't. Like when I do like presentations, I can't have my glasses on.
Oh, really?
Because if I start seeing people's expression, I start to like fumble a lot.
Throw you off.
So I take off my glasses and I speak more differently now. I'm more confident because I can't see anyone in the room. So I try to trick my brain like, oh, I'm just talking
That's pretty
to myself.
Good. That's a great trick, yeah.
Because like I don't know, like when I give speeches with my glasses, I'm an analyst, so like if I start seeing people's like expression, I'm like, oh.
You're like, what does that mean?
He looks
am I fucking this up?
He looks pissed.
Weird.
Like I think I fucked up the speech, but like if I just take it off, can't see anyone, I'm just gonna roll with it. And then when they start questioning, that's where I still like.
That's a great little trick there. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody has a little way of facing their fears.
What do you like to do?
I remember I told you about the experience with my dog. Ever since then, like this whole year,
I caught him this year.
Yeah, this whole year is like.
It's been tough.
Yeah, man. Like you can actually see when I'm nervous now.
I know. I got him.
And like how you said this thing that we do and we don't catch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like they catch what I'm doing and I don't see it. Right. So then one of the times my professor is like explaining the deliverable, and I'm already like,
I know.
and then she's like, what? And then I'm like, oh damn, that was obvious. And then he said, you all right?
Yeah.
And that was, and I got so upset. I'm like, man, I never used to show that. I was never fazed by anything. But because that welcome feelings in me, like now it's noticeable when something's throwing me off.
Yeah, yeah.
And because of that, like now I'm not the same student that like.
Well, that makes you, I think, better though, because now it's like
Yeah, it does.
you,
I
because it was
agree.
probably happening, and you just,
I was just numb.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
numb to a lot of things, and I really didn't never allowed myself to feel because grad school is go mode,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so once that happened, like I'm like, how do I address this? And then I have a meeting in 10 minutes, and then I have class. But what the hell do I do with my dog's ashes? And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
and so like I didn't even know what to feel. I felt like that. Have you ever seen that Chicano art of like the smile now, cry later?
No, I don't
It's
think I
like
have.
it's a the Mask, the movie The Mask.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that thing was there's one of that image happy and then one sad.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Chicano culture, a lot of people have that tattoo.
Really?
Like smile and I'll
Oh.
cry later. There's no time to feel.
Right. Yeah.
Like we worry about that when we get there.
Right. Yeah.
And so my mentality has been like that. I just never tattooed it.
Yeah.
Smile now, cry later.
Yeah.
But it came, Alex. It came hard, man.
Catches you at the worst time.
Yeah.
I swear, man.
So now in this terminals, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get out already, man.
Crying out,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm done.
I
Yeah.
tried
I'm
doing
really
that,
done.
but they caught up to me.
Yeah, but it's really helpful because once you guys left, who you guys were like the people I would talk to the most, your cohort.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really lonely. If I told G, remember G?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, damn, you're the last one. And like, how am I gonna do this without you? And so she's like, don't worry. I completely forgot about Sean.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know what you were gonna do. I thought you were leaving.
Yeah.
So then once I came in the fall and I saw this guy, I was bummed out, man. Like, damn, I have nobody here. Like when I meant nobody, like I meant like an adult, right? Because like you can only talk about dumb things.
You're still a child.
But because we're about the same age, right? Experiences and everything, it's easier to conversate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then here comes Sean, and I'm trying to hide. So I sit in the front, and then Sean sees me, and he comes and he's like, "You want some chicharron, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not alone. Here he is."
And what did you go shopping for yesterday?
I've been trying to tell him because he sees these videos of people eating chicharron with dip guac, and he's been wanting to have it.
Oh, all right.
Said I found the spot, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been easier because I have him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
So I thought it would have been a lot more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the following term in the winter, I happened to TA and go upstairs, and there were you. I'm like, oh, damn, where the hell you been?
Yeah, man, I've just been catching up. I feel like it's a little weird being like on campus as seeing people that are like new as
now you're
classmates.
a teacher.
I know it's like a different role, and I
Yeah.
can't be I can't be like, hey, let's go to Rennie's and
Yeah.
have a like I can, but I can't like stay that late.
Right.
That's just kind of weird. I feel like it's not
You're
really.
gonna get caught lacking.
Yeah, I gotta go on the other side of town for that kind of thing.
That's funny, man. That's so strange, but it's real, right? Because then you just never know. You have an image to protect.
Yeah. Although I am kind of waiting for the day, like I see one of the like freshmen in the bar, and I catch him. And like,
you shouldn't be
better
here.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's
Appreciate
great.
you coming in for doing this for us.
Thanks
and,
for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great perspective for students to see, how you came from a fine arts degree to now teaching architecture and maintain your sanity. Like you're still super happy about where this is all going.
Yeah.
So
you gotta find things you like to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What do you do?
Oh yeah. I mean, it sounds like cliche, but just I love fucking with plants, man.
Yeah, you do.
Got
I
a
know
lot
that.
going on. I have a whole bunch of cardamom plants I've been working on, and I've been nursing this lemongrass back to life. This thing is like a bush at this point.
Oh, for soups, huh? What are you gonna use
Yeah.
it for?
So soups, you can make tea with it.
Yeah.
It's just flavoring.
It is.
It's finally like growing, so I could maybe get some stocks to put on some chicken or meats, like for the summer grilling.
Yes.
So I've been working on getting soil ready, and then like off time, I watch some good shows. I started The Warrior on Netflix, which is real good. It's like apparently based on the writings of Bruce Lee, but it's like this badass Chinese kung fu dude comes from this is like early immigration, like West Coast Chinese immigration, like 1800s, I think. Um, and it's such a great show, man.
It sounds like Ip Man. Have you seen Ip Man?
Yeah, yeah. It kind of reminds me of like Peaky Blinders, but
Ooh.
it's like a Peaky Blinders western centered on Chinese immigration. So it's real cool. I had no idea that I knew the East Coast has its kind of systemic injustices. The West Coast has its own flavor because of just the different immigration that happened over there.
So the Warrior.
Interesting, yeah, it's a good show.
Did you know about that show?
I've probably seen it.
You might have, yeah.
Is it based off of? There's a Chinatown in England town.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
Did you
I
watch
don't
it?
know, I
You
haven't
haven't
watched
watched
it.
it? Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
It's good, man.
Peaky Blinders is good, so
Yeah.
if it's anything like it, I'm sure I'll like it.
It's not as like it's kind of gangy, like about the gang, but it's kind of like this guy who is looking for his sister and gets caught up with the gang. He's like, well, what else am I gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I need work and I need protection because
can't
like
be a gang member
like the
anymore.
the Irish cops were just like everyone's just so racist against people Asian descent. They're just like put that's how the Chinatown happened, you know? Yeah. It's a good story, yeah.
Buffalo has a Chinatown too, right?
No, not really. Yeah.
Damn.
No, there's not as much. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans, a lot of West African, and a lot of Polish, German, a lot of Italian, a lot of Irish.
Good pizza,
Yeah.
good food.
Yeah, dang good food.
That's why you're a
for sure.
sauce guy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is a good sauce? Like, how do you determine a good sauce?
I don't know. It's rich. It's not watery. It's not like relying on sugar, but you might have some spices. Like Italians put a lot of fenugreek in their stuff, so it's like get oregano, fenugreek, rosemary, good spices, good garlic.
Damn, that's good to know, Alex.
Yeah, I remember one of my ex-girlfriends in Buffalo. Her dad made this incredible lasagna, and it took him 2 days just to make the sauce. He just had that low temp simmering.
Ooh.
It was like a stew, basically. Oh God.
You still remember the smell?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks a lot for checking in with us.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
having
you so
me,
much,
guys.
everyone, for listening. Do you have a shout out? You want anything?
Hey, Mom. Happy to talk in person and say hi when you're in the studio, and
yeah,
should be a good time.
thanks for coming.
Yeah,
through,
thank you
Alex.
for having me, guys.
Yeah.
It's good to see you guys.